Welcome back to the deep dive. So, today we're doing something a little different.
Yeah, we usually dig into these dense academic papers, right?
Exactly. But this week, we got our hands on something really raw. It's source material that's super conversational, very anecdotal.
It's excerpts from the Don't Judge Me podcast, episode 208, Sir Nigel and Jay Delnegro.
And it's unfiltered, a real snapshot of how people are actually talking about things right now. Social stuff, culture, you name it.
No guardrails. So our mission here is to sift through this maybe sometimes chaotic conversation and pull out the real insights, those aha moments about modern life.
Right. We're using their specific stories, and some are pretty out there, everything from AI ethics to, like, funeral rules.
Yeah.
To really look at this gap between how we expect things to be all polished and the messy, unpredictable way life actually unfolds.
And that tension, that's really the core theme, isn't it?
Yeah.
That contrast between the ideal and the reality.
Yeah.
Whether it's big picture stuff like trusting information or something as specific as, how you plan a party, their chat shows how quickly things can just go sideways.
Definitely shows how fragile some of our social norms actually are. Okay, so let's start with maybe the most urgent topic they hit on. Digital trust in AI.
Yeah, this was pretty chilling.
They floated this idea, it sounds like something out of science fiction, but maybe it's not, that AI could basically build a fake narrative, like a personalized War of the Worlds.
But designed specifically to push buttons, to exploit feelings, and actually start something like a race riot.
Wow.
Yeah, the speed and the specificity that AI could use to just manufacture division. Nigel really asked the key question. If the tech can do that, if it can tailor-make stories to hit our deepest social cracks.
Then how do you trust anything online?
Exactly. Anything you see, read, hear, it's a huge problem.
And it's not just, fake videos of famous people. It's smaller, maybe more insidious narratives designed to just erode things.
And Ginny had a real-world example that kind of grounds this.
Huh?
Yeah, he talked about seeing this fake story blow up online about a woman supposedly kidnapped after a job interview. Rural Arkansas, I think.
Okay.
And it went viral. People shared it like it was absolutely real. It had all the, emotional hooks, tragedy, fear. It just bypassed critical thinking.
So if the story feels real, the pictures look okay.
Yeah.
How does the average person, how do you spot the lie when it's that sophisticated? That's the key takeaway here, right?
Well, this is fascinating. According to them, the only giveaway in that Arkansas story was that the picture of the woman used was, and this is a quote, too polished to be real.
Too polished.
Yeah, it had that uncanny, sort of sterile, AI-generated look. Too perfect.
That's a huge shift. We've spent years thinking high production value means trustworthy, means authority.
Right. Slick equals credible.
And now maybe that super polished look is actually the warning sign. We have to, recalibrate how we judge things. Look for the shine as a potential red flag.
It suggests maybe, just maybe, the slightly rougher, lower quality stuff might start feeling more authentic because it doesn't have that AI perfection.
Right.
Weird inversion.
Okay, so let's shift gears. From that big digital threat to something much more personal, tricky social situations, personal choices, they got into this really awkward hypothetical for Nigel.
Oh, yeah, the forced choice.
Right. If you had to choose a partner, would it be someone who's had a lot of plastic surgery, the plastic babe, as they called her, or someone whose past includes performing adult acts online, like, say, on OnlyFans?
Tough one. And what did he pick?
He thought about it, but eventually landed on the plastic surgery option, the plastic babe.
Interesting. And that immediately makes you think about the values people bring to dating now, right? What's behind that specific choice?
Yeah, what's the judgment there?
Well, the way they sort of broke it down, it seems to hinge on maybe permanence versus transaction. Like, choosing the surgery suggests, okay, maybe it's vanity, maybe it's superficial, but it's seen as a personal choice about appearance, self-presentation.
Right.
But rejecting the OnlyFans history suggests maybe a stronger social judgment about a past involving, selling intimacy. Maybe worried about how that history affects the relationship now.
So for some people anyway, a history of transactional sex is like a bigger barrier than physical alteration.
Seems that way, based on this anecdote. But that friction, expectation versus reality, it popped up in other places too, like social event planning.
Oh, the house party with strippers.
Yes. This story is just a masterclass in how tiny logistical rules can completely derail things.
So Nigel was helping set up this birthday party, and it was layered, right? Bar in the basement.
Food and dancing on the main floor.
And then the professional entertainment, the strippers, were upstairs.
Makes sense. Except
the host was incredibly worried about his upstairs carpet.
Right. So the rule was everyone, guests, dancers, everybody had to take their shoes off to go upstairs.
Which is,
as Jay pointed out immediately, that's just a fundamental misunderstanding of the situation. Shoes, especially heels, are part of the costume, part of the performance.
You can't ask a professional performer to change their entire uniform because you're worried about the rug.
Exactly. And the scenarios they imagined because of this.
Yeah, they got pretty specific. Like, the dancers being shoeless totally breaks the professional boundary.
Right, picturing them walking around the party, maybe getting dirty feet.
Or accidentally stepping on, like, a dropped chicken wing.
Oh, God. Or that awkwardness of maybe, accidentally rubbing bare toes with a guest. It just dissolves the whole context.
Turns it from professional entertainment into something unsettling and messy.
Perfectly shows how one maybe well-meaning rule, but applied without thinking about the context, just creates chaos.
Okay, let's pivot again. Let's talk identity, community. They got into nerd culture.
Yeah, Nigel had been to AwesomeCon, BlurredCon, these big conventions.
And his observation was that these events feel very niche now, very contemporary, and maybe a bit segmented.
Right. He felt that they catered heavily to what's popular right now, like the anime fans, the comic book movie fans.
But maybe leaving less room for what they called the traditional nerds.
Yeah, the math and science folks, the computer geeks, the original engineers.
So the argument became about inclusion. Like, there needs to be a space where all walks of nerdom can actually mix.
Broaden the tent, basically.
Yeah.
But then it got deeper.
Right.
And it turned into this whole thing about history and legacy.
Yeah, this was powerful. The connection they made between today's fandom and the past. It's not just about who's cool now.
No, it's about acknowledging who came before. The idea that the original nerds, the ones who were maybe really marginalized.
The ones who endured the spitballs and wedgies, as they put it.
Yeah, that they basically paved the way. Their suffering, their social exclusion.
Allowed the current generation to, what was the phrase? Act out Power Ranger morphing sequences in public spaces with no shame.
I mean, what a line. But it captures this idea of a debt, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It really raises that question about gatekeeping versus honoring your roots.
Right. If today's nerd culture is mainstream, if it enjoys this freedom, maybe it owes something. Respect, inclusion to the generations who built that foundation by being outsiders.
It's a pretty sharp critique of how even communities that fought for acceptance can sometimes become exclusive themselves.
So we've seen this clash, reality versus expectation everywhere, globally with AI, logistically with the party, culturally with fandoms.
And now let's bring it to places where formality is supposed to be the rule, but often just breaks down. Funerals and dating.
Yeah. Nigel had quite the week. 2 funerals back to back, apparently.
And both ceremonies just highlighted this tension between the expected solemnity, the proper way to do things,
and just the raw, messy truth of the person's life and how people actually grieve.
The details were really, as they said, out of pocket.
Yeah.
Like the deceased being dressed in a short-sleeved dress shirt, which just feels off, right? Undermines the seriousness.
Definitely jarring.
Yeah.
And then the pastor's sermon at 1.
Oh, man. Apparently damning everyone there to a life of stress and sorrow while they waited for their mansion in heaven. Not exactly comforting.
Not really reading the room, maybe? But the biggest collision seemed to be in the testimonials.
Right. Instead of just polite, maybe sanitized memories.
People got up and were just
frank, unfiltered, talking openly about the deceased's struggles, including, quote, crack and drug usages from the pulpit.
Wow. That's where the formal ceremony just completely gives way to human reality.
Yeah, when grief is that raw, sometimes the whole complicated truth about the person just has to come out. Politeness goes out the window.
It suggests people might actually prioritize that kind of messy honesty over a neat, tidy remembrance sometimes.
Absolutely. The need to process the real person, flaws and all, can just overwhelm the social script for a funeral. And you see that same kind of clash, maybe less dramatically, in just personal interactions too.
Okay, so let's wrap with Nigel's other awkward story, the save the last dance moment.
Right. At a party, someone came up to him very assertively, maybe a bit drunk, and basically declared she'd met the love of her night, him.
And the whole approach, the vibe, was straight out of like a 90s teen rom-com. Very confident, very direct, grand gesture sort of thing.
Yeah, Julia Stiles vibe maybe. But here's the crucial detail that just makes it awkward.
The age factor.
Exactly. These weren't teenagers. They were 40 years old
Yeah.
in, 2025.
And that time gap just changes everything. What seems charming or bold in a 17-year-old.
Just feels kind of jarring when you're 40. The expectation is different, more maturity, maybe less intense public declaration.
Right. It perfectly shows how we can carry these behaviors, maybe learn from movies or from when we were young, forward in life.
But then those same confident moves just clash with the context, with the age, with the expectations of being a grown-up. Hashtag tag out.
So looking back at this whole journey through their conversation, it's pretty clear we use these really candid, sometimes strange anecdotes
Yeah, definitely unfiltered.
to get at some real insights about digital trust, about managing social events, about who belongs in a culture, about how unpredictable grief and even flirting can be.
We saw that shift, right, where being too polished is suddenly suspicious.
Yep.
We saw how taking off shoes can unravel a whole situation.
And we got that great line about the original nerds taking the wedgies so others could be free.
It really all boils down to that constant friction, doesn't it? Between the neat idea of how things should be and the messy, complicated way humans actually are.
Exactly.
So here's something for you, the listener, to think about. We heard that the AI giveaway, the sign of the fake, was that it looked too polished.
Mm-hmm.
So thinking about everything we've touched on, funerals, parties, dating, online info, what's the most unreliable social cue or maybe piece of information that you run into regularly? And what's the specific, maybe messy detail that tips you off, that helps you spot the messy truth hiding underneath an expectation that just feels a little too clean?
Good question to chew on.
Definitely something to think about next time things seem a bit too perfect.